Before we get into the potty with Max Viney, shout out to the sponsor of today, the Terminus Hotel in Abbotsford. Grand Final Day is getting closer and the Terminus Hotel is bringing back its annual Grand Final Day block party, September 26. It's a massive day with live music from 11 a.m, the Grand Final live on screens inside and outside, roaming canapes, bottomless drinks, and the full street party atmosphere from the first siren to the final siren. Tickets are on sale now with standard tickets available, or level up your grand final with premium, including bottomless premium beer, wine, and spirits. Get your group together and lock in your tickets now at theterminushotel.com.au.
New is always better.
Stand up for yourself. Don't ever back down.
Yes, dos.
Someone's going to get on the end of this and kick another one from the goal square.
We're not here just to take part. We're here to take over.
Stand up straight, Caden. And away we go.
Max, how are you, mate?
Good, mate. How are you doing?
Travelling well. You pointed out that it's middle of winter. I've got the shorts and the t-shirt. Is that a bit of a rare look?
I guess some people just don't feel the cold, eh? You just feel the tougher stuff than I am.
Oh, I don't. I doubt that. I doubt that. You're cut from a cloth that I wish I was cut from. But I put it down to my Scottish heritage. I'm a McDonald.
Yeah.
My dad always says, you know, we're used to cold climate, so that's what I'm putting it down to.
Funnily enough, we did a bit of an ancestry DNA test the other day as well.
Yep.
And, you know, every family members always saying, oh, you know, we got Nordic blood, Vikings, you know, like real tough. And then sure enough, we got it and it's pretty just run-of-the-mill European, slightly Scottish, slightly Irish, so nowhere near as fancy or as interesting as we thought it was.
I feel like that's normally the way. Like it's my partner, I think they did something similar and there was a bit of Italian, maybe some German, but it seems to be like the same handful of countries.
Yeah. I think, you know, if you're Australian, your parents are Australian, your grandparents are Australian, it's like we pretty much know where we probably came from. So, yeah, it was nowhere near as interesting as we were maybe hoping it was.
How have you been? What have you been up to? Obviously, a lot of people would know you from the jiu-jitsu stuff that you put online. You're also an AFL tackling coach, but how's it all travelling at the moment?
It's going well, thanks, mate. So pretty much I'm mostly doing football these days. So started kind of competing full-time in jiu-jitsu and then training people at the gym and one-on-one and basically transition into AFL tackling work.
Yep.
So that's kind of been my bread and butter past couple of years, working at a couple of clubs across the season. So been at North Melbourne and the D's for the season the past couple of years.
Yep.
And then during the pre-season, I'll bit of a gun for hire, go around to a few different clubs and then I've been lucky enough to do some work with the AFL themselves this year around some tackling education and training for the W program. So it's been busy, man, but really blessed, really lucky. It's been great.
I'll touch on the jiu-jitsu stuff in a little bit, but I'll jump straight into the footy tackling stuff. So how did you transition into the AFL landscape? Like obviously the connection there is your brother is Jack Viney, the Lord and Saviour, the Premiership hero, one of my all-time favourites. You've got a rich history within football with your dad as well. And then obviously you had the skills of learning how to grapple, competing in jiu-jitsu. So how did you sort of accidentally fall into the footy side of it? How did you become like a footy tackling coach?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Growing up, I played footy and probably didn't share the same talent or natural, skills for it as Jack did growing up. I also reckon being 5'6" and under probably didn't help growing up.
How tall's your dad?
I think Dad's around 6 foot.
Yeah.
And then Jack's a fair bit taller than me, and I'm stuck 5'7" now. So yeah, kind of moved away from footy around sort of 14, 15. Just didn't quite have the same passion for it, and but my favorite part about footy was always like tackling and fights. Like that was the one thing I could do, you know, even as a smaller guy. So, you know, my brother and I, we'd kind of watched mixed martial arts growing up.
Yep.
Some of the older fight organisations kind of as UFC was coming up. One of them was called Pride. And basically, when I was looking for something else to do apart from football, something pretty physical, had a close friend and a neighbor mentioned jiu-jitsu. Okay. Jumped into it and I was in love with the sport ever since. So kind of growing up, mostly spending time in jiu-jitsu, trying to compete, make a run of it as a semi-professional athlete in the grappling space. And kind of, as I kind of went into my adulthood, always checking in with football because obviously it's close family ties and Jack was always saying, I'd love to come into the gym and you show me some jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. I said, yeah, sure. I reckon there's some stuff there that might be helpful for you.
Yep.
So got him into the gym and he and I really bounced off each other in terms of like what was applicable to the sport, what was maybe, looked good for highlight reels, but didn't really translate.
Yep.
And then from there, it just kind of got my mind really tinkering about, what was out there for football players in terms of skill development, skill acquisition in the tackling space, which, sometimes, gets muddied up with, you just got to be harder or you just got to want it more. I thought there was a real gap for actually helping people understand the why and the how. And then just through posting on social media, as I'm sure you kind of know, like things gained momentum.
Yep.
Started getting some more players in and then finally got opportunities at North Melbourne, the D's, did some work at the Pies and now it's kind of progressed into what it is now.
It's amazing, and anyone who's seen your stuff online, like you can actually tell that you're bringing something new to the tackling game, especially with footy. And it's not like someone has taught you how to tackle differently and you've brought it to the AFL. You've taken skills that you've learnt in a completely different sport and, as you said, tinkered it to the AFL.
Yeah.
So was it that first summer? Because there was a summer where we started seeing Jack go into the jiu-jitsu gym, and then obviously track was doing the same, and it felt like that was like that sort of 10% extra that they'd do every week to try and get more out of themselves. But after those sessions, they came back and they almost had different evading techniques. They had different tackling techniques. So was it that summer 3 or 4 years ago that really started it?
I think so. It's definitely when I started gaining some momentum with like, what I was putting online, kind of showcasing what we were doing in the gym and then, split screening that with what we would see in games. And that was kind of the thing. Like, obviously, when it comes to tackling or breaking tackles, I can see all these little fights or these technical things happening that make sense to someone like me who has a grappling background and a jiu-jitsu background, but to the average viewer means nothing.
It looks like chaos.
Exactly. So when I was able to have those really clear moments of like, here's what we trained, here's the exact same thing in game, that kind of opened up people's eyes. I can't take credit and say that it was all me, and after that I taught them everything they know. The truth is that I learnt a lot from watching football matches, watching the best guys at breaking tackles from the past 20 years or so, your Dusties and stuff like that, and being able to kind of distill what it actually is they're doing, what are the mechanics that are at play, and that's where my grappling jiu-jitsu background came in. How can I put that into a teachable method? And basically what I reckon sort of happened is I brought Jack in, got to do sessions with Track and Tommy Mitchell in those early days, and basically said like, here's essentially the concepts behind what you want to do. Here's how to make it work more often across more situations. So, maybe that led to some aha moments for those guys, which allowed them to do it more often and in game, and then create some nice clips for me to go, edit it, put it together to the training footage, and then take all the credit for it.
As you should. It is fascinating. So obviously, as you said, you identified some patterns in players while you were watching AFL. Who were some of the players who were breaking tackles in a certain way that you identified? Because like some of them might have just been doing it like they learnt it in juniors or they made it up on the fly. Yeah. And you've sort of identified a part of their game and taken it and been able to teach it. So were there any players that jump out that had like great evasive technique or great tackle techniques?
Yeah, I think early days guys like, Cyril was pretty renowned. He was pretty hard to hold on to.
Yep.
Dusty, the way that he could use his fend off obviously is what he's most known for.
Yep.
But also his ability to, you kind of hear, shake the hips, drive your legs, that kind of stuff. He was a big one. Jack, unironically, was, a kind of really talented tackle breaker all throughout his career. And I think you're right in saying that it was kind of stuff that he did growing up. But if you ask him, like, how do you do that? He'd go, I don't know, I just do it, So he was another one. Patrick Dangerfield has been pretty good over his career. So there's lots of little things that are unique to heaps of different players from heaps of different situations. I just try and take their best thing and break it down, figure out what's going on and teach it.
Yeah, no, it's unbelievable. And like I started to see clear differences, like some of the stuff you were showing that you're working on at the gym with the boys, and then to be actually able to see it in game. So the one that I always reference is the shrug that they do where if a tackler tackles them above the elbows, they don't duck, but your brother, and now I've seen it become a trend in the league, does this sort of shrug where he almost like bends down hula hoops, and because the players have the big muscles and they wrap the arms around, they can't help but slide off over the top.
Yep.
It is this sort of like shimmy / shrug that I remember in 22 and 23 and 2024, it became like a trademark of Jack's, but now I'm seeing it around the league. Like, was that something that you guys worked on a lot? Was that something that he naturally had or something that you guys had worked on together?
Yeah, the shrug. It's
like a bit of a cheat code. It feels like a video game.
I think a lot of people see the shrug and they go like, I'm never getting tackled again. Like, if I can nail this, like no one will tackle me. And it's almost kind of become my trademark in a way of like everyone who comes to see me or the clubs I go work at. It's like, all right, boys, we're doing tackle technique today. They're like, I just want to shrug, But I think that one's like kind of the most eye-catching because it just sends guys flying. They just kind of melt off.
Well, it goes from looking like they are completely trapped,
they're done,
and like because at times this is something Nathan Jones did really well, and I'd grow up watching him, but he would be on the wing and someone would spear him from the complete other side, blindside him, and you think, oh, Jonesy's gone. And he would end up standing up and like almost the player's momentum would fly off Jonesy. And I remember like watching that going, he has this core strength that like someone of equal weight has drilled him from the other side without him knowing, and he hasn't gone to ground. And it almost, reminds me of that where like Jack or some of the other players will get grabbed like they don't know it's coming, but then and you think they're completely gone, it's going to be holding the ball, and then a split second later they're out of it. So it almost like catches you by surprise.
Yeah, I think with someone like Jack, and the shrug works really great for those contested bull style players, guys who are in the chaos. Because like football today is so fast, it's so dynamic. A lot of it happens in transition open field. So, if someone's 15 meters away from you, you're not going to like hold the ball, wait for him to tackle you over both arms and then try and shrug him. It's more like useful in those in-close scenarios. So for Jack, the shrug was a tool that we could really identify as something that was really helpful for him to do solid work at getting the ball at the coalface and then get it out to runners and something like that. So it was something that we practiced a lot. And his natural desire to want to go and seek contact and not panic once he gets tackled allowed him to develop and work on how to use a tackler's momentum against them. When are you done and cooked? Versus when can you fight through it? And that's where the skill, the training and stuff, all those hours in the gym come out. So yeah.
To the people listening, like maybe they're playing juniors, maybe they play local footy, is it repetition? Like for someone like them, like obviously you probably need to know a little bit of technique and a little bit of method, probably a lot of technique, but can you get better by just drilling this stuff at your local club, getting more reps in, like while getting tackled with a teammate? Because yeah, for someone like myself, it's like, if I don't go to training for a couple of weeks, I forget how to tackle altogether and I just run away from the footy. But like the more you can expose yourself to it, the more confidence you can get in those situations.
For sure. There is a small caveat in it. And this is where my background in grappling and jiu-jitsu really helped, because there's really complex chains of movements that we got to try and learn to do in jiu-jitsu, right? Like how do you get from starting a match standing facing someone to an armbar or a choke or a leg lock or something like that?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that have to happen before you get to that point. And those are skills that you got to develop, right? And so someone can show you a way of doing something, right? And you go, all right, cool. That's one way I can achieve this goal, whatever your goal may be. And let's say you start repping it out with a friend, and let's put it into a tackle specific. Let's say it's the shrug.
Yep.
Let's say I show you how to shrug, and you finally get the movement pattern down. Your teammate or whoever you're training with is giving you the exact response you want every time, no resistance.
Yep.
Then that's really good for learning the movement pattern. But after a while, your ability to develop that skill is going to start to diminish if you just keep doing the same easy rep over and over and over.
Yep.
You know, you have to start to challenge yourself at some point. Failure is good because if you try and shrug and you miss it, you can analyze, okay, what went wrong? What could have I done differently? What am I going to try different next time?
Yep.
So a lot of people, I think, especially with tackling in junior levels or breaking tackles in junior levels or in football in general, feel like it's like, all right, I get a coach or a friend to show me this move or this tackle or whatever. All right, now I'm just going to chuck you into a tackle drill. Or even worse, we don't even train it at all. We just go straight into a game. You got to be really honest with yourself. Your chances of successfully hitting that same thing, going from 0 to 100, is extremely low. So you have to have a progression. It's okay to start with no intensity, just to see what it looks like, feels like. But the more you can create little steps to build yourself up to that game intensity, that 100% in a speed intensity, that's going to be better use of your time. So unfortunately, there's no shortcuts. If you want to learn how to shrug, watching the video and then trying to hit it in the game might be a little bit tricky. It's not to say that it can't happen. But if you want it to be reliable in any kind of skill that you want to develop, you got to slowly progress it. You got to learn to fail, learn to analyze, get better at it, and build your way up to that full intensity.
What I love as well, obviously, like there's how to evade a tackle, but it's also you've been working a lot on how to tackle. Now there's, we played 150 years of football and people are still now only just realizing some of the techniques that can help lay tackles efficiently, but also now what they have to consider is doing it legally, and those boundaries are changing. Some of my favorite videos that you post on Instagram is there'll be a tackle and the whole AFL world is saying, how is that 3 weeks? Like what could he have done? And you say he could have done a million things. And the way you break it down and explain it is perfect. And I reckon the AFL would be licking their lips because it justifies that like just dumping someone on their head isn't good enough anymore. And I've never liked that part of the game. It's like pinning someone's arms, dumping them on their head and being like, oh, it was an accident. It's like you don't actually, like you can win the footy and you can defend and be brutal, but also not wipe someone out for a month. So I love that there is a duty of care element and you're showing that there's ways to have a duty of care, but also apply really hard tackles.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. I agree. when I always get nervous when I go to post those videos because I'm like, there's going to be some people who are happy to kind of think differently for 60 seconds where I speak to them and go, okay, like I'll consider what he says. Yeah, I might not agree with it or I might agree with it. And that's awesome. And then you got the people who are, maybe stuck from the old kind of, olden era of football where we used to go up for marking contests and it was okay to like throw a haymaker at the guy's face, So I think there's definitely like still a big portion of football fans who love the hits, love collisions.
Yeah.
And in a I'm not sure if it's, I don't know if it's saying a sick way, but they love to see people get hurt.
Yeah.
Because it's drama, it's, whatever. But as someone who has, my family is a football player. My dad was a football player. My brother's a football player.
Yeah.
I've got friends who are football players. To see them get seriously hurt, especially, we see all things around concussion and stuff like that,
Yep.
long-term impacts, to keep the nature of tackling, still have it strong, tough, whatever, and just change a few things here or there to maybe minimize these really serious injuries. For me, it's like, why wouldn't we try and at least think about it or talk about it?
Yep.
And I'm not saying every tackle can be safe. I'm not saying every tackle can stop someone from being concussed. But I think it's okay to talk about, break down, and analyze situations that, maybe could have been changed in a movement or a decision, which could still result in a good, strong tackle that looks great and it's tough.
Yep.
But let's both guys play at the
Yep.
end of the day, and both guys can retire at the end of their career and, live on.
Well, I just love how quickly AFL footballers adapt, and like there'll be a slight rule change. Say it's like stand on the mark or whatever, and the ability for them to expose it from a game plan perspective, but also just use that to their advantage is phenomenal. And I think people underestimate the decision making that AFL players can make out on the ground. Like they can kick goals from anywhere from a split second. They can decide, I'm going to chuck this on the boot for a banana, and they kick it.
Yep.
Like they are smart and so skillful. And what I love is like you watch games now, and the ability to like they don't pin both arms. They leave an arm free. Some of the techniques that you show is like the Paddy Cripps, how he leans back instead of driving someone into the ground.
Yep.
He almost lands on his ass first, which then like
Yep.
softens the blow.
Yep.
The ability for players to adapt, I think, is like underrated, and I think it's a phenomenal like component of their makeup.
Yeah, well, I think I can definitely understand, because I think the argument a lot of people give is like everything happens in a split second in game. What were they meant to do? Change at the last second, do this or do that, and I can understand that argument. And I'm not saying you can go change a rule and expect different things in game instantly. It's not about changing what someone does in the moment. It's, ideally giving them a bit of a platform to try and experiment with it, whether it's during the preseason, whether it's during dedicated tackling, grappling training with someone like myself.
Yep.
All right, try and finish this tackle without pinning both arms or putting the head into the ground or so on, and give players an opportunity to train it. Because like you said, AFL players can do incredible things.
Yeah.
They can hit these amazing goals, but, Cozzy Pickett, he snaps goals from the boundary line, but you guaranteed if you go to a training session, you're going to see him having a few shots from the boundary line. So he is practicing it to some extent, right? So is it unreasonable to expect players to change their behavior without giving them, fair notice and a way to train it and practice it? Yeah, for sure. But I agree with what you're saying in that these are very talented athletes, and they can make better decisions, change the way that they use their body, hopefully for the better, while still having strong and effective tackles, I think.
I think the AFL blowing the whistle for stoppages quicker has definitely helped, because when they would just let it play out, it's like you would tackle someone, the ball isn't coming out, but because the play hasn't stopped, it's like, well, I may as well bring you to ground, and then there'd be a dumping tackle late. I'm noticing that players sometimes don't even, like some midfielders, they're so buggered that like once they wrap each other up, it's like they just stand there and they don't even tackle to ground anymore. That's almost, in some instances, becoming a little bit rarer.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, you know, that those decisions are weighing on players' minds. Like, is it worth the energy? Is it worth the risk to my opponent, to myself, to take someone to ground? Holding someone up is just another way of achieving the outcome of getting the umpire to blow the whistle.
Yeah.
Now, the risk is that like, if your opponent doesn't stop fighting, moving, they get their arms, like Matty Rao's a perfect example. He gets tackled and he just goes ballistic to get his arms free, get the ball out.
Yeah.
So it can be a double-edged sword in a way. But yeah, for sure, like there's nothing wrong with keeping someone on their feet as long as you can lock the ball in. And, you know, if the umpire's going to blow the whistle or it achieves the goal of a stoppage or whatever, then, you know, it's great.
Yeah, it probably avoids suspension or potentially injuring someone. And so I can understand why that's crept into the game. Who individually has impressed you from a tackling sense? Like, obviously, maybe you've met some tacklers and it's natural to them, so maybe their rate of improvement isn't as impressive. But is there someone that's come into one of your programs that you've worked with closely who have gone from like, I don't know, I'm going to exaggerate and use a word that probably isn't real, but like, have they been slightly timid, but through learning some method, gotten their confidence up, where you've seen in game, they're like laying big tackles and you go like, oh man, they couldn't do this like 18 months ago?
Yeah, for sure. I think when I come into like a club or a program, you got a spectrum of guys who are, you know, real strong tacklers, been doing it their juniors and doing it at the AFL level. And then you got players who are maybe more ball users, outside players. And then once you get into the AFL, you have to still be a strong outside player. But when your time comes to do the tough stuff, like it's expected of you, you know? And so probably a lot of the focus goes to those guys. How do we get those guys to, when their moment comes, do good, strong defensive tackling, right? And I think the goal isn't to take them from, you know, grabbing jumpers or jumping out of the way to big George Wardlaw level, you know, spear tackles or, you know, Tristan Cherry style tackles. It's just increasing that confidence to, you know, make good close contact, wrap people up effectively, and you know, feel confident in absorbing momentum or applying their own sort of force or momentum into a tackle. So, you know, I've been at North and D's the longest out of all the clubs I've worked at, and you know, there's plenty of players in both those programs who I've seen kind of come in their first year or second year, and now they're really starting to grow into their physicality. And that's really exciting because now I know the next step is that they get to do special things. They can bring their own flair to their tackling or breaking tackles and so on. So, yeah, I'm definitely seeing some stuff there, which has been great.
Well, someone who jumps out to me, and, you know, no doubt they would have had the ability to tackle coming through juniors, but someone who jumps out is Harry Sheasel's one of the most skillful players I've ever watched. I actually had him on my old podcast when he was coming up through the Talent League. And then I followed him for the rest of the year, and he kicked like 4 of the most ridiculous goals in the Talent League grand final. Obviously came into North and started getting Cados numbers from the minute he debuted. And I noticed maybe a year ago he had the Viney shrug up his sleeve. But the other night when they beat the Western Bulldogs, he laid some massive like defensive tackles, you know, game-changing tackles. And I remember watching that going, man, like, because he is a obsessed footballer. He loves doing anything to get the slight the best out of him, the slight percentage boost that he can, like from his diet to his sleep to his recovery. And I just noticed that the other week. I was like, man, like Harry Cecil, like he's now, that might take him to the next level as a midfielder. Like he can accumulate, but now he's doing the defensive two-way running stuff, and tackling was a big part of it.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right. He's such a professional in everything he does when it comes to football, and he's one of those guys where when you go to give him feedback during a training session, he's all ears, and he genuinely wants to implement it. So, I think tackling was maybe a area of improvement for him in year 1 and year 2, and he's a guy he's worked really hard to get to the point in those games now where when it's his turn, he makes the right decisions, and he does the right stuff. And if he misses a tackle, like, because every player misses tackles no matter how good they are, it's not kind of feeling sorry for himself or just ignoring it, which is what a lot of players do. So it's just kind of like, it wasn't my fault.
Yeah.
He brings himself back to the training, the concepts, and he works to get better on the next one. So yeah, he's a guy who's improved leaps and bounds in that area and is still improving, which is scary for the league.
100%. With the North boys, Paul Curtis has been a talking point. A couple of years ago, he laid a ripping chase down tackle, and it felt like through circumstance. I think it was Josh Sins from Port. His knee got caught, which sort of toppled him over, which created a driving motion, and Paul Curtis got suspended for it. He's had a couple of instances like that, but how has it been working with him? And because he's tackling. Sort of the flip side to Harry Sheasel is probably his one wood. Like his physicality is incredible, his speed. So how's it been like sort of working closely with him and, trying to work on some of these techniques? Yeah,
I think you're exactly right. Like PC is a strength of his. And there are a few guys who, there's some guys where you got to try and get them up to the level to want to go in, and then some guys you got to try and pull back, But with PC, it's like, man, you're doing 99% right. It's just those little finishing details that are unfortunately getting caught up, and in the wrong way can lead to suspensions or injuries and stuff like that. So, kind of going back to when I make these videos on what could this player have done differently to avoid a dangerous tackle, I'm not saying that there's always things to make it the perfect safe tackle. Sometimes stuff does go wrong. But with PC, it was kind of like, mate, you're doing everything right. Maybe you need to consider if this motion happens or momentum goes this way and you're trapping both arms, how does that impact your opponent's ability to protect their head or something like that? And then, like we were saying, it's kind of not fair on PC to then be like, okay, now just never do that again, or just do something different in game, because you're hyped up on instincts and adrenaline. And there's
so many different scenarios. Like one might be a tackle from behind, it might be from the side, they might be taller and shorter. So no tackle is the exact same.
Yeah. So then we just give PC some different ideas, give him a place to explore it during the weekly sessions at the club or whatever, and try and educate as well as, showcase what he can and maybe can't do. So I think that's a really important part of what I do, is that whether it's an efficiency standpoint of players who aren't making tackles, the guys who are making tackles but are starting to get into that dangerous territory, reviewing that with them, breaking that down, giving them a platform to practice and experience different habits or techniques.
Yep. No, it's awesome. It's players from either side of the skill set are getting so much out of it. So I just love it. I saw clips of you down at the D's and you were doing some tackling drills outside, but whenever I see clips of you at North, you're in this confined like meeting room with some mats and
The dungeon.
yeah, it worries me because it feels like it's like if they're going to be running into each other, like there's windows and stuff.
Yeah.
So, especially big Tristan Cherry and Georgie Wardlaw. So,
Yeah.
Is there a specific reason why you would do it on mats versus doing it more like almost like game like outside?
Yeah. So basically, the club's schedules plays a big role in this. So at North, we have a dedicated tackling block during like afternoon rotation. So they're doing some gym, some guys are getting some treatment, and then a group will be with me for dedicated tackling work or grappling work. And for whatever reason, the high performance staff at the club will determine that the boys have had enough time in boots. So putting them out on the grass again isn't maybe the best approach just for managing loads and stuff like that. And so then that's a really important role for me to make sure that those indoor sessions, especially if space is constrained and stuff like that, is controlling intensity and controlling the focus of the session. So those sessions aren't just like, all right, boys, we're just going to belt the crap out of each other for 30 minutes. It's not 30 minutes of death matches. It's targeted, focused, constrained, controlled work to try and achieve a specific goal or work on a specific thing. In that specific context, if you're not in the drill, you're on the outside of the mat, you're the spotter. So no one WWE style goes through a window or something like that.
Yeah.
And then with the Ds, that session is like I'm involved in the main trains.
Yeah, wow.
So I'll run a couple of tackling drills inside of the main train. And so then we get to have the boys in boots, working on the boundary, working in stoppages, whatever kind of tackling we want to work on for that session. I do both with all clubs.
Yep.
It just depends on what time of the year and scheduling, essentially.
Do you ever consider stuff like only the tall blokes tackling the tall blokes, or is it one where like you might get Cozzy tackling the right? Like, because obviously AFL is a unique sport where someone like Nick Watson is playing against someone like Mason Cox, and you probably have to have the skill set to be able to execute evading and tackling everyone.
Yeah, for sure. And I try and mirror that in my training. My training with these guys has to be ideally as closely representative to what they're going to have to do in game as possible. So while you don't want Nick Watson or Cozzy having to tackle all the ruckmen, you want to give him a mixture of guys his same size, guys a little bit bigger than him, and challenge them with guys that are significantly bigger.
Yeah.
And that's where...
Do you have to change your teaching? Or
For
is
sure. Like, I think a common sort of misconception when you're teaching physicality or tackling is that there's only one right technique.
Yeah.
But the reality is that you got to be adaptable. You got to try and come up with different solutions for different problems. So I'll try and guide players to, core concepts. And then when a player has a challenge, like let's say it's Cozzy tackling Gorney, it's like, all right, well, what's the outcome we actually want here? Is it taking Gorney to ground, or do we just want to stop him from getting an effective disposal?
Yep.
And Cozzy's such an amazing guy where he is so creative and can, like, you see him in game, he does all these like tackles that you've never seen before. And it's not like we've gone through every one of those variations.
Yep.
It's, we give the players some core rules and some core concepts. And if they can problem solve and become creative to be effective against people of different body shapes, then that's awesome.
Yep. No, that's so cool. Has there any players that have gotten into jiu-jitsu after doing some tackling sessions with yourself?
Yeah, so LDU or Luke Davies-Uniacke from North Melbourne, he's a big fan of jiu-jitsu and, chucks the gi on as well. I think he's close to getting his blue belt, which is the first belt after white.
Yep.
I didn't personally do any sessions with Sam Darcy from the Doggies, but I've heard he does it.
That's cool.
I went up to him. I was like, "Oh, I heard you do some jiu-jitsu." He's like, "Yeah, no, I do." And that's scary. That's a scary thought because his just limbs are so long. He's kind of like the perfect build for the sport.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's a bit of time off while he's recovering.
Hard to armbar.
Yeah, hard to armbar. Plenty of legs to try and leg lock, I guess, though. Who else?
Well, Harley Reid was a famous one. Obviously, he grew up with his uncle.
He's done some MMA and grappling with his uncle, yeah. I remember he had a YouTube video where it was kind of like a bit of behind-the-scenes footage of him with his uncle hitting some pads and stuff like that. But, yeah, they're the main guys at the moment. There might be a couple others I'm missing. But yeah, they're the main guys I'm aware of.
So obviously you were watching some Pride, watching some UFC, and then I think you said you had the neighbour that got you into it. Yeah. What was it like when you first got into jiu-jitsu? Was it like a little bit daunting, or were you just like, was it sort of like you had found your sport, like you're into footy a little bit, but this had really sung out to you? Like, when you first got into it, how was it?
I think It definitely sung to me a lot more than most people because, like, I'd always grown up in a pretty physical household, and we'd watch WWE wrestling growing up, and we'd been watching UFC and MMA, and I'd done, I feel like every kid's had a karate stint or a taekwondo stint growing up, and I had one of those, and my favorite part of those trainings was always doing the takedowns or the wrestling drills, but you do it like once every 6 months, and so I was kind of like that's all I want to do.
Yeah, they're trying to teach low kicks, and you're trying to take them down.
You're kind of doing like the katas, which are kind of like more like sequences or dance routines than actual fighting. So when I kind of got to jiu-jitsu and that's all it was, I was like, oh, hell yeah. But it was daunting to some extent where when I was 16, I got moved to the adult class. So, started as a kid.
Is that because you had progressed so quickly?
No, it was kind of like once you get to 16, it's like that's just the natural progression.
Yep.
But then I was a 16-year-old, probably a little bit undersized at the time, and having to, physically spar full-grown adults of different sizes, weights. And I think that's another thing that's helped me with kind of teaching tackling with different body shapes is that I've always had to use jiu-jitsu against different body shapes.
Yep.
So there was never the excuse for me of like, oh, this person's bigger, so, it was like, well, make it work, But that was daunting to an extent, and but after a while, it skyrocketed my confidence, made me feel, really kind of like I found somewhere I belonged almost.
Yep.
And it just sung to me personally as a physical person.
When did you get your black belt?
I got my black belt in 2021, I think. So it took me about...
Jeez, good year.
Took me about 10, 11 years, which is kind of around the average, I guess. And it was, a real special day. Family surprised me by being there for the event, and that was awesome.
Man, that is 10 years. That is a serious stint. What do you have to tick off? Because by like a couple of belts in, 3, 4, 5 years in, and maybe this is just a naive thing to say, but I think from like an outsider, I would see a skill set that looks like it's black belt level. So what's the difference between like year 5 and year 10?
Yeah, I think a lot of like traditional martial arts is like, what's your syllabus of moves, Like how many techniques can you show me? With jiu-jitsu and grappling, a lot of it can be dictated by how well you perform in sparring against other people at the gym or your coach. And then another really big one is competition.
Yeah.
So how you're tracking against other people, your weight, your rank in tournaments and competition.
Yep.
So if you're a blue belt and you're winning, state championships, national championships, and you're giving upper belt's a lot of trouble in the gym, that's usually a green light for your coach to be like, all right, you're ready for the next level.
Yep.
That being said, not everyone can be, a competition winner. You got people all different shapes, sizes, ages training the sport. So at that stage, it becomes more like, what are some specific goals that you should be achieving for that level? I want to be safe in X position. I want to be able to, hit X submission or progress. And that's usually a conversation with your coach as well. And then you start to progress. A lot of people sometimes put the belts in kind of like an education sort of analogy where white belt, you're at kindergarten, preschool.
Yep.
Blue belt, you kind of primary school. Purple belt, you're starting to get to high school, figuring out what you want to do.
Yep.
Brown belt's kind of like you're going into university now, like you're specializing. And black belt's like you got your PhD, sort of thing like that. So that's how people kind of break it down in a way, I guess.
So LDU's nearly in primary school.
He's still in kinder at the moment. He's going to nearly graduate to primary school.
So I'm going back through my mental archives, but I believe that I saw you competing for a while there.
Yeah.
Were you considering either going professional in jiu-jitsu, if that's a thing?
Yeah.
Versus, or like, were you weighing up mixed martial arts? Yeah. Was there a reason why you stopped or you don't compete as much?
Yeah. So, like, you can become professional in jiu-jitsu, but jiu-jitsu is really interesting in that it's almost like a professional amateur sport. Like when you're at the top of jiu-jitsu, even if you were top in Australia, or sometimes even top in the world, your options for making a career and a living out of it is significantly harder than if you were the same level in AFL or basketball or something like that.
Yeah.
So
is that because there's no set league? Like like, I don't know, every 6 to 12 months, I'm not as in the world probably as yourself, but I see like a new league has started or a new competition has started and then it fades away. Is it because there isn't like one set sort of like elite league?
Potentially, yeah. At the moment, there's a real fight for like what's the competition, what's the league. Like UFC started a BJJ offshoot. Another really famous one's called ADCC. And then you've got a company called IBJJF. So you've kind of got all these competing factions fighting for the top competitors.
Yep.
But then none of them really offer. It's not like you win a tournament and
you're the linear champion. Yeah.
Like a lot of times you win a world championship, which requires years of dedication, sacrifice. You probably got to move overseas to go train at a good gym. Although Australia is phenomenal in terms of our size as a country and the quality of jiu-jitsu we have here, Australia is like up there. And we have world champions, which is fantastic. But once you get that world championship, which is like the pinnacle, your avenues for creating a lifestyle for yourself is usually potentially open a gym, right? Create instructionals, or do seminars, or maybe some online coaching. So it's not like someone's going to come up to you, like offer you a contract to compete with them, and it's going to pay your mortgage, bills, and stuff like that. It's usually a little bit more tricky. So for me, I was having a crack at competing and did okay in the domestic scene, but kind of saw what the sacrifice, the jump was going to be required to try and become a world level competitor. And when I weighed that up against kind of the opportunity I was receiving in football, and how I could kind of carve a niche for myself in there, the competing took a step back. I still train every day. I haven't closed off competing, but for me, I can get what I need out of jiu-jitsu training with competitors rather than having to like go do the tournaments myself.
What was the biggest tournament that you were in? Did you go overseas for it? And
so I traveled to LA for the World Championships, which unfortunately I couldn't get past the first round in, but that was an unreal experience just to see like, you go from a small pond in Australia, relatively speaking, to now you're competing against people from the States, Brazil, stuff like that. And it was just like, whoa, there's levels to this.
Was there anyone there, like either coaching or competing, that like we might know of, like any notable jiu-jitsu names, or even like people that might have moved into mixed martial arts? Like anyone sort of floating around? Any of the Gracies wandering around?
Nah, not that I think that the average person would kind of know, unfortunately. But then I also had an opportunity. I went to Japan and did the Asian Championships as well. So those were kind of the two biggest tournaments I got to compete in. But the life of a competitor in jiu-jitsu is tough because it's flights, it's accommodation, registration fees, and you just kind of do it for the love of the sport, really.
Yep. It's such a, like, when I first got into the UFC, I watched it years ago when Conor McGregor was coming up and whatnot.
Shame about his knee, eh?
I
in his
know,
last fight.
I know. I was waiting so long. Wait all night for it. And yeah, what an anticlimax.
Yeah.
But and when I was getting into the UFC, it was like I loved the stand-up fighters. And almost the Khabibs or whatnot, taking it to the ground, I would be frustrated.
Yeah.
But then across sort of 2020 to 2020, probably till now, my appreciation for the ground game has just gone through the roof because it's so fascinating. Like I don't really like UFC fighters who take blokes down but don't really look for a finish. But someone who like finishes on the ground in a really lethal sense, to me, feels as dangerous and as violent as someone who can knock someone out. So I started to really get fascinated with jiu-jitsu in and around that time. That's why I gave it a go. I came down. I was down. And,
haven't seen you at the gym in a while, mate.
It's been a minute. It's been a minute. I went for like 2 months in maybe longer, maybe a 3-month stint. And I got good enough that I went back to Geelong to see my mates one Christmas and they'd heard about it.
Oh, no,
and
don't tell. You start having a wrestle after a few
having
beers.
And I towed them all up.
Yeah, good.
And then I was almost like, well, I've got everything I wanted out of the sport.
If you can beat your mates up at a Bucks party or a party, that's all you need to know.
I was like, I've achieved everything I wanted out of the sport. I'm done. Thank you.
You clocked it, mate.
But it was just so much fun. And like, my appreciation for the sport just went through the roof. And now it's like something that I look for in the UFC. Like on that Conor McGregor card, one of my other favourite fighters is Paddy Pimblett.
Yeah, 100%.
And his submission against Benoit Saint Denis was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
There was almost like a combination of a couple of submissions.
Yeah, I think he said it himself. It was like he hasn't practiced that in the gym. It's like he's just kind of mashed a few things together, a few different ideas and concepts, and choked the guy out cold. But I think that kind of goes back to what you were saying, which is grappling itself isn't inherently boring or bad. It's how guys want to use it and go after it.
Yep.
Who stylistically, guy like Paddy Pimblett, he's going to go out and he's going to try and use his jiu-jitsu to actually like finish you. Whereas maybe some guys who are more from a wrestling background are just wanting to hold you down, pin you. So I think you can find examples on both sides. You can find strikers who just want to kick you, keep you at distance.
To sort of score points.
Yeah, score points. And then you got guys like Justin Gaethje who are just going to swing and bang sort of stuff. And then you can find examples of both in the grappling side as well.
So with that Paddy Pimblett submission, I think he said, and I might get some of these names wrong, but he was saying it was almost like a das, and then he combined a Peruvian necktie.
Yeah.
When you saw that, because a lot of the commentary was like, oh man, this is a very unique submission. It's almost something we hadn't seen before. It was almost 2 submissions in one.
Yeah.
When you saw that, was that something from a jiu-jitsu background where you go, oh, we've seen this tried at the gym before? Or were you like, this is a very unique way to submit someone?
A bit of both, in that like I could see the way that he was wrapping his arms around the neck. I could see the way that he was kind of threw his legs over in that Peruvian necktie style.
And only a certain amount of people can do that because he's got really unique flexibility.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. His mobility to be able to do that was really impressive. So I could see like what he was doing, but him using it in that specific context was really interesting and really unique. In like, did I go like, oh, that's this move? It's like, no, like I don't think there was really like a name for it. I think he was calling it like
The pad tie.
the pad tie or the padlock or something like that, which like that's a fantastic name. But I could see how he's kind of like mashed a few different ideas from different positions into like one submission.
You mentioned Justin Gaethje. He's obviously the lightweight world champion. Who are some of your favorites in the UFC, like that you're watching at the moment?
So Gaethje is really good. Like I was enjoying watching Ilya up till when he lost.
He had like an amazing aura around him.
Yeah,
I wonder if that's
so much swag.
I wonder if that's dented a little bit. Obviously getting comprehensively beaten at the White House. I loved, there was an interview with Conor McGregor and Ariel Helwani was asking like, is Ilya going to come back the same? And it's been put to a lot of TikTok edits with this like great music behind it, but he's like, he got banged up bad. Can he come back? I think he can. I think he can come back. But it's going to take a lot mentally to bounce back from such a comprehensive belting.
Oh man, when like the pre-fight stuff, he was like had framed photos of his opponents and he's putting roses down in front of each photo. Like
apparently the night before he would have a wine and celebrate his win before he goes out and fight, which works when you win, but when you lose,
it's so like, and it seems to be a reoccurring theme in MMA and UFC, and you definitely saw it back in the Conor McGregor era where, you know, he was like, if you can see it in your mind and you can speak it, it will come true. And everyone's like, man, this guy's a wizard.
Yeah.
Like, he's a fortune teller.
Yeah.
He is never going to lose. He's never going to get punched. And then, you know, Nate Diaz comes out, beats him, chokes him.
Yeah.
It's like, the reality is like no one's unbeatable. And I think the same thing happened with Topuria, where he's like, man, he, you know, knocks out Oliveira in such a clean way. And
then
knocks
Max.
out Volk, Max,
Yeah.
like, this guy's never going to lose. He's the next big thing. And then he buys into it. He's doing all this theatrical stuff. He's celebrating wins before he's even fought. And then you got a dog like Justin Gaethje who's just like, man, I don't care. And he beats him.
Yeah.
You know? So anytime I see someone starting to, like the narrative around them is like, this person's never going to lose, I start to go, I almost reckon they're going to lose.
Well, and it seems to happen in the UFC often where like someone will come up the ranks and there's tall poppy in Australia, but in the UFC there's a lot of tall poppy where it's like, I think just in fighting in general, it's like you'll be one of the best people at your gym and there'll be people saying, oh, but he's just good at the gym. And then you'll be one of the best people in your town. It's like, oh, he's only good at the town. And I think fighters have to constantly fight through like people's perception of them. And then it's like, oh, he's at the UFC, but he's fighting unranked guys. Like people just want to dismiss people's achievements. But then finally, once they get the title, they defend it once or twice, it's over pretty quickly sometimes. And like I loved Adesanya's title reign. Like he was fighting frequently throughout the year, which I think there's a bit of bravery in that, putting your world championship up for grabs 3 or 4 times a year. That's very impressive. But like one example that I would say is like almost the Usman one where like it felt like he was unbeatable for three or 4 years.
Yeah, I remember.
And then Leon Edwards with one of the most iconic like knockouts of all time. It, like at the instant where we probably think that he's an immortal and can't be beaten, and he's just gone 5 rounds comprehensively beating his opponent. Yeah. It just changes in a split second.
No, it does. And I think, like when you're the champ, especially if you're a dominant champ, like everyone is trying to create, like you got opposition fighters, coaches, analysts, all trying to break down your game specifically. Like what are your weak points? What's the game plan to beat you?
Yeah.
And that makes it really tough, especially if you're fighting pretty often. And once you do lose, I think the way you lose has a really big impact. Like if you get head kicked, knocked out cold, like that's going to have an impact on you. You got to take time off from that. And, you know, when you come back, you might be more hesitant. you might be still carrying some injuries. It's just, I think it's so hard to get there, and it's even harder to stay at the top.
Do you think there's an element of the belly's full? Like they work so hard from 14 to 30 to get the world championship. They've got it. You defend it. Do you reckon, and maybe like I think every era is almost better than the last, like from a skill set standpoint. So maybe the people coming up the year or two after are just better or are peaking at a different time to them. But like, do you think there's an element of like once you've achieved it, the training isn't as sharp, the preparation isn't as sharp?
I think so. Like,
it's human nature.
yeah, I just think it's human nature. Like, you see where these guys start out, and so often they're sleeping at the gym. They're living in their cars. They're that hungry to like get to where they got to be. Like, it's all they do. And it's like, I got to be a world champion. I got to be a world champion. And you're probably not earning good money until you get the belt.
Yeah.
And then you get it and you're like, yes. And then, you know, oh, I've got a bit more money now. Like, I'm the champion. Maybe I don't need to train 3 times a day, 2 times a day. You know, I got a couple of kids now. Like, I got sponsorships. I'd rather go do this ad and get paid a couple $100,000 than go train at the gym. And I think just that stuff compounds. And, you know, someone hungrier comes in and, you know, takes it from you. And I think that's why it's so impressive that guys like, especially Islam, those guys just seem like another level of discipline where I think it's a cultural thing as well. Once you get to that level, it's like you have your whole country, your coach is telling you like, stay humble. Like you just, the money doesn't mean anything. Like they're still training just as much. And that's why I think they're so hard to beat even now.
Yeah.
I think for sure, like once you get to that top level, you just kind of kick the feet up. At least that's what happened with McGregor as well.
Well, Stephen King always says a word that I've coined that I absolutely froth, but he talks about being unconditional. And I think that's just such an amazing word to sum up how you have to go about things. And my personality is, once I learn 4 chords on a guitar, I'm like, great, I can play guitar.
Yeah.
Once I learn how to stand up on a surfboard, it might be a G board, it might be just in the white water at Torquay front page, but I go, I can surf.
Once
like,
you beat up your mates at a
yeah,
box party,
at a
you
pub,
don't need to learn jiu-jitsu
I've
anymore.
conquered jiu-jitsu. And I have like a lot of like basic skills in a lot of things because I'm interested in a lot of things, but there's not much that I've mastered. So like even yourself saying that, you know, you're a black belt, but you're still training, and like that's like an unconditional mindset around the sport.
Oh, I think you know, like some things just kind of spark your passion or whatever, and jiu-jitsu for me is something that's just it's never become uninteresting to me. Like there's always another mountain to climb, and that might be skills that I want to develop or people I want to do better at the gym, or you know, potentially competing or whatever.
Yeah.
But for me, it's never kind of waned. And I think I'm just lucky that I found that thing.
Yeah.
Because I think everyone's always looking for what's my passion or what's their thing. And so I was just lucky in finding jiu-jitsu that was one of mine. But I'd say like the stuff you've done in like content creation, media and stuff like that. Like, I think you're a black belt in that regard. You definitely seems like you haven't just kind of rested on your laurels on that one. It seems like you're unconditional in what you create. So I wouldn't sell yourself too short.
Yeah, I'm trying to throw it away, trying to give it away. So nah, it's good. I really appreciate you coming on today. Lastly, before you leave, will the Melbourne supporters see Jack Viney before the end of the year?
Hopefully. I got no comment.
Got no inside information.
Nah, truth is I try not to like Jack focuses on footy so much. I try and talk to him about anything other than footy. When I see him. Pokemon, anime, gaming, try and keep it to the fun stuff. So man, fingers crossed. I'd love to see him back, especially coming into the.
It's a good time of year to get Jack Viney back potentially.
Fuck, how good is it if you could just like chill out the whole season and like, oh, we playing finals? Yeah, all right, I'll jump up, I'll get in. How are you feeling for the rest of the year? You excited?
Well, I am just so thankful. Like, I can't believe what I've witnessed this year. The changes that they made were obviously ambitious and risky, but from top to tail, like the sentiments that's coming out of the club, it feels like the players that are playing are super grateful. Like, there's like a love back. I don't know. It's just been amazing so far. There's a greedy part of me that wants to pinch one finals win because obviously the boys lost 2 in 2022.
Straight sets.
And then straight sets in 2023. So to lose a 5th in a row might become a bit of a thing. So if I could be greedy and ask for one more, like to kick the monkey off the back and win one final, that would be amazing. But honestly, what they've achieved so far, through the help of yourself with the tackling, the tackling's been unbelievable.
It's been all
Maxi. It has been incredible, and I'm super thankful for their season so far.
Can I ask, like, you're someone who's like, I know you're a diehard D supporter, and I've seen you be involved with the club, like even from a partnership standpoint, for a few different projects across the years. Like, how do you feel like? Do you feel like you have a relationship with the club itself? Like, do you feel part of the fam, or not so much?
I feel it's a one-way relationship. Some people give me a bit of shit. They're like, "Oh, you're mates with the boys," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's a one-way friendship." Like, I've met a lot of the staff across the years. I've met a lot of the playing group. More so now, like some of the players watch me growing up a little bit. So there has been instances where, whether they're from Melbourne or from other clubs, where it almost feels like I'm interacting with a fan more than like, I don't know, there's this mixture where like I'm a fan of them, they're a fan of me. So I don't feel a part of the club. But I feel like the club's a part of me. So it's been so much fun. Anything I can do to help in and around the club has been amazing. But I also don't want to be that guy that's like rolling in and trying to be in and amongst it, trying to think he's one of the boys. Because at the end of the day, I'm not. But honestly, one of the nicest people that I've ever met is your brother. Your brother has given me a lot of time. I think like he would have been 18 or 19. Well, he clearly was when he got drafted, but I would have been down at the club just being a fan and then bobbing up a little bit with content. So obviously yourself, but also your brother, like your whole family have been so nice to me, which I have appreciated.
Oh, that's good, mate. Well, I feel like a lot of other teams have people in the content space and the media space who do a lot of work for them. And I think Melbourne traditionally has been one that we don't have much. You know, like, we kind of keep people away, or, we have a bit of a reputation of like, fans are off at Mount Buller or, doing anything but going to watch the game. So I think it's really good that we've got someone like yourself who does so much in this space and has achieved so much. Like, at the end of the day, like, Cados is a D supporter, and I reckon we can hang our hat on that.
No, I appreciate that, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Maxi, thanks for joining me, mate. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Good luck with the footy stuff, but also the jiu-jitsu stuff.
No worries.
Thank you, mate.